You know, every now and then in this life, you hear a story so strange, so beautiful, and so unexpected that it makes you believe in second chances again. This is one of those stories, a story about a woman, a broken marriage, a man who felt invisible in his own home, and the night Elvis Presley, yes, that Elvis, did something so small, yet so powerful, that it changed the course of two people's lives forever. And before I take you into this forgotten memory, do me a small favor. If you love untold stories from the past, if Elvis was a part of your younger days, go ahead and like this video and subscribe. It helps us keep these memories alive for folks who still remember the world he grew up in. Now, let's go back to the summer of 1964. Memphis, a humid night at Graceland, and a woman named Margaret Collins, who swore her marriage was already halfway gone. Margaret had been married for 12 years. She and her husband, Don, barely spoke anymore. The laughter was gone. The tenderness was gone. All that remained were two people sitting across from each other at the dinner table, staring at plates instead of each other. Don worked long hours at the fire department. Margaret felt lonely, invisible, forgotten, and on one especially quiet night, after another silent dinner, she got into her car and simply drove, not knowing where she was going, just knowing she needed somewhere to breathe. By pure chance, or maybe something deeper, she found herself parked outside the gates of Graceland. She'd never met Elvis, never even tried, but that night she sat there with tears in her eyes, thinking about the girl she used to be before life wore her down. A guard noticed her. "Ma'am, you okay?" Margaret tried to smile. "I think I just need someone to talk to. Anyone." The guard hesitated, then made a decision that would stay with Margaret for the rest of her life. He walked up to the house, disappeared inside, and came back minutes later saying, "Elvis will see you now." Inside Graceland, Elvis was sitting in the den, still in his casual rehearsal clothes. And when Margaret walked in, red-eyed and trembling, he didn't smile for the camera, didn't strike a pose, didn't put on the superstar charm. He just said softly, "Ma'am, sit down. You look like you're carrying the whole world." And she broke. Tears poured out. She told him everything. The loneliness, the fading love, the silence in her marriage, the fear that she and Don were strangers now. Elvis listened, really listened, not as a celebrity, but as a man who'd seen his own parents fight, who'd grown up watching couples drift apart from stress, pride, and exhaustion. When she finished, Elvis leaned back and said something Margaret would never forget. "You know, people think love dies loud, but it don't. It dies quiet, one unspoken word at a time." Now, around the 3 or 4 minute mark here, I want to ask you something, because this story isn't just about Elvis, it's about all of us. Have you ever felt someone pulling away from you? Not because they stopped caring, but because life just wore them down. Maybe it was a spouse, maybe a child, maybe even a friend. Tell me in the comments, do you believe love fades on its own, or do you believe people just stop fighting for it? I'd love to hear your thoughts, because what Elvis said next was something every couple needs to hear at least once. Elvis looked Margaret dead in the eye and said, "You want to save your marriage? Then stop waiting for him to read your mind. Tell him how you hurt. Tell him how you feel. Most men ain't mind readers. They're just scared." Margaret whispered, "What if he doesn't care anymore?" Elvis shook his head. "People don't stop caring. They stop talking. You start talking again, and you'll be surprised what comes back." Then Elvis did something no one would expect. He stood up, walked to a table, scribbled a note, folded it, and handed it to her. "Give him this," Elvis said, "and tell him the king said, it ain't over unless you let it be." Margaret didn't open the note. She didn't dare. She just clutched it like a lifeline. That night, she went home. Don was sitting in his chair, half asleep, half drifting through the weight of his own stress. Margaret placed the note in his hands and said, "I need you to read this, and then listen to me." He unfolded it. Elvis had written just 5 words. "Talk to her tonight." Don stared, and then, for the first time in years, he cried, "Margaret, I'm sorry. I thought you didn't need me anymore." She fell into his arms. both apologizing, both trembling, both realizing how close they came to losing something precious over silence. And from that night forward, they talked, they rebuilt, they healed. Their marriage lasted another 38 years, and whenever things got rough, Margaret would take out that tiny folded note, now yellowed with age, and read it again. Talk to her tonight. It was, as she put it, the greatest marriage advice she ever received. And it came from Elvis Presley. Margaret told this story only once in her life, just a few years before she passed. And when asked why she never told anyone sooner, she smiled and said, "Because the miracle wasn't meeting Elvis. The miracle was getting my husband back. And maybe, just maybe, that was Elvis's quiet gift, helping people not with fame, not with money, but with heart." If you enjoyed this story, and you want more hidden memories about Elvis and the legends we grew up with, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And before you go, tell me, do you believe one conversation can save a relationship? Or is love something that takes more than words to repair? I'd love to hear your thoughts.